Hey good people, welcome back to Beauty and the Frizz. My name is Kara. Whether you're new or returning, thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me today. Today I am doing my second palette rotation video, and all the palettes that I'm going to be using are by Melt Cosmetics. So if you want to see some looks that I come up with using these palettes, keep watching this video. Let me know what you think. And if makeup is your therapy and your love, and you want to connect with other makeup enthusiasts that feel the same way, definitely consider joining the community. I'd love to have you back. All right, let's get started. So Melt Cosmetics is one of my favorite brands. It's kind of a complicated relationship because they don't have my favorite eyeshadow formula. And sometimes their palettes can be hit or miss. You just don't know what you're gonna get with them. But what I love about Melt Cosmetics is their vibe, their aesthetic. I love their vision and creative color stories. Sometimes the execution may be a bit off, but I see where they're trying to go. And I do have palettes by Melt that I've taken the shadows out and put something else in, and you'll see me use one of those palettes in this video. The reason that I'm doing a palette rotation video with all of the Melt palettes, well, not all of the Melt palettes, but with all Melt palettes, is because I eventually want to do a ranking of my Melt palettes. There are some palettes that I hadn't used. Like I hadn't used my Gemini palette. I hadn't used Millennial pinks. And I think there may still be another one on the list. So I want to really get to know these palettes well so that I can rank them and see where these palettes stand. I already have a pretty good idea of like my top palettes, but some of the other ones, it's kind of all over the place. So I'm gonna be incorporating these a lot in my palette rotation videos, and I hope you will enjoy these looks. I'm gonna be doing 5 looks. The last one is gonna be the one I'm about to actually create now. And I'll be back at the end to just sum up and talk about how I feel about all of the looks. So I hope you enjoy. The music's gonna go on now, and I'll see you in a few.
Your friends chilling day and night for days on end. Now you can't come see me tonight. Say you ain't got the time. I'm the last one you prioritize. Peeping your IG pictures on my phone. I won't spend another night at home. Okay, I'ma just be on my way. You'll see I'm not the one you take for granted, babe. I know that life can be busy, love. You make time for the ones you love. It's only right, it's what I deserve. Love, tell me what you done for me, done for me, done for me, done for me lately. Did your mind go on vacation, leaving your affection for me at home? Tell me what you done for me, done for me, done for me, done for me. Where's the kind of love that I used to know? Baby, so can you take me on a date? The simple things you do to make me stay. Now it's like you don't even try. I used to wonder why, but now I'm left with no more tears to cry. I know that life can be busy, love, but you make time for the ones you love. It's only right, it's what I deserve. Leaving your affection for me at home. Tell me what you done for me, done for me, done for me, done for me lately. Where's your heart and your attention? Where's the kind of love that I used to know? If you want me the way I want you, put your all into all that you do. It's only right, it's what I deserve. Love, tell me what you done for me, done for me, done no, I don't wanna play no games. I just wanna call, see if we're okay, babe. All I wanna ask you is, I don't wanna push you farther away, no, I don't wanna play no games. I just wanna call, see if we're okay, babe. All I wanna ask you is, are you down for love? Are you up for us? I wanna be together, be together. Babe, I want your love. I'll be the one you trust. You're all that matters, all that matters. Are you down for love? Are you up for us? I wanna be together, I wanna be together. Babe, I want your love. I'll be the one you trust. You're all that matters, all that matters to me. I've been thinking about you. I'm waiting for it all to come true. I'm longing to hear you say, you know that I miss us. I wanna be the one that you trust, 'cause you have stolen my heart away. There can be no other. Baby, I don't even bother. Whatever they have to
right, you guys, so I do hope that you enjoyed all of the looks. So now I just want to kind of go back and just sum up how I felt about each one. The first look that I did was with the Millennial Pinks palette, and I'll pop pictures up from each look. I really think that this palette has such a unique color story, like with the pinks and the grays and the black. And I really like the look that I created. From what I remember hearing, a lot of people didn't enjoy this palette. And the reason that people didn't enjoy the palette was due to the shimmers. And I've always said that that's not Melt's strong point whatsoever. So I didn't really expect much. I already came into using this palette knowing that. And I also did not use every color in the palette. So I can't give this like a 100% like fair judgment yet. But I love the look that I created, and everything that I used, I thought it worked fine, especially the mattes. So I like this look. I want to get to know this palette better so that we can really see how all of the shades perform. And again, oftentimes the shimmers do leave more to be desired, and I expected that just from the prior knowledge that I had about this palette. But I can say I don't regret buying it. I'm not mad that I own it or anything like that. Now the second look came from two palettes. It was mostly the 27 palette, and then I just took one shade from the Rust palette. Now I will already tell you that the Rust palette holds its place right now as my #1 favorite Melt palette, and it's also the very first Melt palette that I purchased. The 27 palette, even though I believe it is an older palette, is a recent purchase of mine. I love this palette. I love all of the shades. You've got warm shades that are neutrals, and you have some cooler kind of tones on the other half. And I think that there's not one bad combination in this palette. I have used this palette, I think 2 times now, and you just can't go wrong with any colors that you combine. So I could see this being somebody's everyday palette. It's just a palette where you can put together a really quick look. You can do a daytime look, and you can do a nighttime look. You can do grungy, smoky, and it's all kind of in this same kind of color story. Very beginner friendly palette, I would say. As for the Rust palette, I think this would be a little more difficult to use, but not by much. This shade might throw some people off, this shade Erode, but this is such a beautiful mustard shade, and I think it's really, really unique. You don't find it all the time in palettes. Now I do want to mention that this shade here, the shade Classic, in the original Rust palette, it is a matte that is this color, like a kind of like an off-white matte, but I never used it. So I chose to scrape it out and replace it with one of my Give Me Glow shimmers, and it looks like this. I can't remember what shade it is. I did that because I thought that it would be such a perfect inner corner highlight. You could also do it on the lid. The Give Me Glow shimmers are great. They're a bit flaky. They're very pigmented, and you definitely want to be careful when you use them, or use them with a glitter glue or something like that. But I don't regret adding that in this palette and customizing it that way. I think these are great partner palettes as well. I love having both of these in my collection, especially because I have just been so into neutral shades lately that I just can't get enough, to be honest with you. So I already know these are like in my top 3, probably top 5 palettes, I would say. So the third look I created was with the She's in Parties palette. This is definitely my ideal purple palette. It's just very vampy, very deep, but you can kind of go light if you want to. I do appreciate a good monochromatic look, and I think the look that I came out with was really nice. Now this palette has one of Melt's better formulas, and I like that there are 8 shades. I like that they are all usable. There was nothing about this palette that I changed, and even though some of the shades are similar, they do have some slight differences. Whether or not they show up on the eye is a whole nother issue, but I do like how you can you know, go light if that's your thing, and then maybe take one of these shades to smoke it out, or you can just go deep, or you could do a combination of the two, which is what I think I did. I think I used a mix of light shades and deep shades. I think the purple looks good with my brown eye color. Again, this is another palette that I'm glad to have in my collection. It's definitely not a makeup regret. It's very, it's just very grungy purple, and that's one of the reasons that I love Melt, because I love grungy eye looks and smoky eye looks. Now, the fourth look that I created was with the Gemini palette, and this was my very first time using this palette. It's a palette I had on my radar for some time, and it was always out of stock at Sephora as well as on the Melt website. I didn't see it on Beauty Bay or anywhere else, and last year in 2021, I believe it was the spring sale, the very last day, I just checked and Gemini was there, and I was just like, oh, I'm getting it. Like, hands down, getting this palette. It sold out soon after that. And I have to say, this palette is probably going to be in my top 5. Gemini has the best of both worlds for me, because we can create that neutral look here with this half of the palette. We have kind of a shade very similar, a little bit deeper than the Erode shade in Rust. But I love this mustardy color. So we have that, we have a shimmer, we've got a black. But then if you want to do some color or a pop, or just really go grungy green, you have this end of the palette. This is reminding me a bit of Flower Punk, the other end, I think it's the right end of the Flower Punk palette, where you've got those beautiful greens. There's 2 shimmers in here. I didn't really use this shimmer that much. I think I might have used it in the inner corner maybe. So I'm not sure about the performance of that one. I really had no issues with the green. And I think that in the eye look I created, the green looked absolutely beautiful. I am not sure why Melt can't keep their shimmer formula consistent. The mattes have been pretty consistent. I do know that there were some mattes in that 420 palette, which I'll have to use in another rotation video, that were just very difficult. I believe I got rid of the one that was really difficult. So I can't wait to use that palette again, because that's another really nice color story. It was just the execution and the final product of that palette was just lackluster, I think, for most. So I've only used it one time, so I can't wait to pull that out on the next one. But Gemini, beautiful palette, beautiful look. No problems with this one. I'm definitely putting it in the bucket with 27 and Rust. It's right up there with those. So I'm not sure where that will stand in the ranking, but these 3 are definitely gonna be in the top 5. They just have to be. They are just amazing palettes. And I would still recommend all 3 of these today. Like, I don't care when they came out. I feel like a lot of the makeup that I'm interested in these days, they're palettes that are not new. I don't want to say that we've seen the best of the best, but, you know, compared to what I see coming out now, I'm like, we've seen a lot of really nice palettes, and I'm not sure, like, how much more creative we can get. I love these 3. And we can get more creative, but just from what I'm seeing, the creativity is kind of lacking, I think. And speaking of lacking creativity, let's go into the last look that I'm wearing now. This is from the Brunette palette, and as you can see, and I'll have to put a picture up if I haven't already, I did change out these 2 shades to make the palette way more interesting than it looked. And even the packaging on this palette is boring, you know. And I love a good minimalistic boring packaging. It's just not Melt. That's not the packaging that I expect. I'm not saying their packaging is spectacular, but even when you look at the designs on these, there is a design. This has nothing. Even the outer box has nothing. Some of the Melt palettes have embossings on the inside. Not all of them do, so I wasn't expecting that, but we got nothing in this palette. These 2 shades were additional blend out shades that they just weren't even appropriate for a ghost, as I like to say. I think this shade Cork, I use that as a transition. It is pretty much my exact skin tone, so you didn't really see anything when I used that shade, but I used it so that when I used this shade Tan, that I had something to kind of blend it up into, so it was kind of like gradual, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I would also use this like if I needed to. I might have, I don't know, I might have used Tan. I was gonna say when I like to have kind of like a blurred out effect, you can use cork or like your setting powder to do that, but that's what cork is for me. I use every shade in this palette. What made this palette stand out was honestly these two shades right here, especially the shade Bourbon. Bourbon is the shade out of all of them that really called to me. It is just a beautiful shade. And I think in a palette that seemed a bit more cool, Bourbon was like this, almost like this warm shimmer. And I really like that up against the colors that are here. The reason that I chose these two purple shades by Give Me Glow to put in here is because I like blue and brown and I like purple and brown. And I'm going to be pulling out the Blueprint palette in my next one because I don't like blue eyeshadow, but I like blue paired with brown. And that's why the Blueprint palette was special. But this shade, I think it's Storm by Give Me Glow. I felt like this shade really added something special to this color story. I can't remember the name of this matte by Give Me Glow, and it was a pain to try to, what do you call it, depot a matte and pack it back in. So it never went back in exactly right. But I love that I included these two in this palette, and it just allowed me to customize it and make it more pleasant to use. And I think what really made this look stand out was that I chose to use a purple, bright purple eyeliner by Urban Decay just to kind of set that off. The quality of brunette, like the mattes and everything, are cool. The shimmers, Musk is pretty smooth. It's just a very smooth shimmer. Stout, even though it looks smooth here, I can't remember. I did use Stout on the eye and it was fine. So no, I don't have any issues with the shimmers in this palette at all. I take it back. Whatever I was about to say, I take back because they're smooth. Sometimes when I use my fingers in these melt palettes, it looks like they're gonna start to get a hard pan, but I really didn't have an issue with this palette. I just think that they were going good, like with this end here. They were going good all the way up to here. Honestly, if they just left it like a little six pan like this, honestly, they could have just made it a six pan. I just think that putting in those two light mattes was a waste. And it really made me wonder, did they have to release a palette? Because it just looked like the thought process was just, it was like half done. Like, oh, we had to hurry and get it out by this date, so we just put this in and we couldn't even really do anything with the packaging. That's what kind of threw me a bit. So out of all of my melt palettes, this one's like the odd man out. It just feels like it was forced, and they could have done something else with this. Like, they could have put a black in this. They could have done purple. I think purple would have been the best choice, but they could have had something in here that really made this palette spectacular and stand out. Now this palette is spectacular for me, and even though it's kind of like a basic palette, even with the purples in there, there's more of a variety of looks. And you can always enhance it like I did with the eyeshadow, but this could be somebody's everyday palette. I know some people really do like it, and it's hard when Melt has a palette come out and it's like, oh, this is the Melt formula that we need, but we needed it in the Millennial Pinks palette. You know what I mean? So one of my biggest questions with Melt is, why can't the formula be consistent? I just don't get that. Because as much as I find it, what's the word? Like, I like challenging my creativity when I decide I'm going to reconstruct a palette and I'm trying to figure out, ooh, but with what? Like, you know what? They could have done a burgundy shimmer and a deep, like a maroon matte. Like, I'm just thinking, not maroon, yeah, like a burgundy matte or something like that. Like, they could have really had something with this palette, or if it was like 4 burgundies and then these 4, like some type of bronzy rose palette, like that would have been really, really pretty. That's an idea. So as much as I like challenging my creativity and reconstructing the palettes, when you spend your money, I mean, that palette was like $48, $50. Like, you shouldn't have to do that. You know what I mean? But I don't like to look at eyeshadow shades and get mad. So that's what I choose to do. But that's extra time, it's extra work, it's extra effort. Yeah, it's just extra. Anyway, I mean, I could have chosen not to get it. That's another thing. So anyway, that's it. And that's my summary of the looks. If I had to choose a favorite, it probably would be the Gemini look. I just think it looked really good. That green shimmer, like, you just cannot go wrong with a green shimmer. And it was just, it was just really pretty. I really like that one a lot. Okay, that's it, you guys. So thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today on another palette rotation video. Let me know how you are enjoying this. I have another palette rotation video in the works. It is Pat McGrath, I believe. I think I have 2 looks. Part of me wants to just bang these out, but sometimes, like, to be honest, I don't want to use one brand for a whole week. I just don't. So, like, this video has been a couple weeks in the making, and then the Pat McGrath one will be too. And then as I film the looks, I just tack them on to the videos that I'm already editing. So as I complete more looks, I just tack them on to the video that I'm already editing. So when I do these videos, I kind of have more than one video going at a time, because I don't want to use the same brand for a whole week. That's just me. I want to use like what I like, just what I feel like using. Or if I just wake up and say, oh, I want to do this, like, I don't want to be like, oh, I got to do the melt video. So anyway, that's just some background information about how I'm filming this. But let me know your thoughts and comments. Have you been rotating your palettes? I have been keeping up with my spreadsheet every single day. I feel so great highlighting something new that I'm using. And if it's not something new, I feel great putting a tally next to something that's already been highlighted, because that is showing me like what I'm gravitating to and what I really like. And hopefully as I continue to get to know what I really like, I'll be able to easily say no, like, I like this, but I don't tend to use this, so I'm not gonna grab it, stuff like that. In any case, enough talking. Again, thank you for your time. I hope this was therapy for you. It always is for me. And until I see you again, make sure you are being gentle with yourself. Talk to yourself nice, stay safe, and I will see y'all really soon. Bye.